Welcome back. So about a year ago, I made a video about the Pixel 6, which was actually my first Android experience, and it was great. I really like using it. And when the Pixel 7 came out, it seemed like there were some solid upgrades with Google starting to refine the integration between their hardware and their software using the Tensor G2. Design-wise, they do look pretty much identical. Pixel 7 still has a glass back, the aluminum rails, and a camera bar. But the camera bar is now metal with a cutout for the cameras, which I think looks better and actually feels a little bit more protected. With Pixel 6, I feel like I was always paranoid that the glass in front of the cameras was gonna get scratched every time I put it down. And on the front, the screen's still flat with an under-display fingerprint sensor and a 10.8 megapixel hole punch camera, which is also actually now being used for the new Face Unlock feature. And this isn't like Apple's Face ID, which is what I'm used to. It actually uses a 2D image from the camera along with some on-device machine learning to recognize you, which is really cool in theory, but if you're wearing a mask, sunglasses, there isn't enough light, or really anything that keeps your face from being fully visible, it just doesn't work. But when it does work, it's like a solid step up from the Pixel 6. I had a lot of issues with the fingerprint sensor on that, so the new sensor combined with Face Unlock is granted still not as reliable as I'd like it to be, but it does work more often. I'd say I end up typing in my passcode 50 to 60% of the time, as opposed to 80 to 90% of the time from the Pixel 6. But once it's unlocked, the rest of the software experience is great. I've only used the Samsung kind of briefly, but I really like the stock Android experience with the Pixel. And that's pretty much the main reason I haven't tried a foldable yet. I just haven't wanted that Samsung experience. But now with the Pixel Fold, I'll be definitely giving it a try, so be sure to subscribe down below for that. And the software on this feels pretty snappy. I'll get into the G2 upgrades in a bit, but it feels quick. I mean, there's still the occasional stutter here and there, mostly with the biometrics. But overall, it's great. I remember last year I mentioned that the animations felt a little slow for me. I think I've gotten used to them. I never actually sped them up in the developer settings I had some comments recommend. Also, there's a couple of things I've been liking about Android, more than iOS, like the ability for apps to just kind of run more in the background. Like with the Latch Reader, I don't have to open up the app to authenticate. I can just hold my phone up to the reader. And like I mentioned earlier, the Pixel 7 is powered by the new Tensor G2 chip, which just has some slight improvements on the original Tensor chip. It's still a 5nm process, but Google also says it's 60% more powerful and 20% more efficient for the advanced machine learning stuff that they're doing on the device. In my experience, for the general day-to-day usage, it feels the same pretty much as the original Tensor chip, but it's enabling a bunch of new features, which I'll get into, and it's just doing that background stuff a lot faster. And I think one of the coolest features, for phone calls at least, is clear calling. So now, if you have this enabled and you get a call from someone in a noisy environment, it'll actually reduce loud noises so you can hear them better. And it really depends on your connection if you can do this or not. But when you are able to, it's really nice to have. And like I mentioned earlier, there's a ton of features, especially with the camera. G2 powers stuff like faster night sight processing, better zoom, cinematic blur, and face unblur. But just kind of overall, the camera is really good, and I like using it. Granted, there are times when the focus just doesn't catch, or the white balance just doesn't adjust until I tap on the screen. Usually when I open the app immediately, but the photos that I'm getting out of this are just so good that occasionally having to tap to focus or interact with the phone and not just open up the camera and shoot is, it's fine. I don't mind. When I'm just walking around, day to day and I want to take some pictures, I find myself reaching for the Pixel more often than I used to. And honestly, a decent chunk of them are in portrait mode just for fun. I really like the cutouts. They're clean and the depth of field looks fairly natural to me. I'd say it does struggle a little bit with detailed edges like hair, but for larger subjects, it looks great. I did give face unblur a few tries, and like the name suggests, it unblurs faces. And it's really cool that this works on anything in my Google Photos library and not just things that I've taken on the Pixel 7. So I can go back and edit those older pictures that I didn't know what to do with them at the time, but I didn't want to delete them. So maybe I can breathe new life into those and use them. Also, just for fun, I wanted to just, see how far I could push this feature, and I tried it on a picture of my dog. It didn't fully unblur his face, but I feel like it does something. Let me know down in the comments if you can actually see a difference between these two, or if I've just been looking at them for too long. And I'm sure this was just intended for photos of people, but he refuses to sit still, and it'd be nice to be able to do something with all these blurry photos I have of him. Now, I mentioned last year that I don't use the Pixel much for video, and that's still true. I usually still lean on the iPhone when I want to take a video and I don't have my camera with me, but the new cinematic blur feature is pretty cool. It looks fairly similar to Apple's except for two things. It's limited to 1080p at 24 FPS, and I haven't seen any way to edit it after the fact. Like on the iPhone, you can go in and adjust the subject of what's in focus after you're done filming, but I just haven't been able to find anything similar for the Pixel. I also mentioned earlier there's better zoom and night sight, both of which are nice to have when you need them, but I don't use them regularly. On the Pixel 7, the super res zoom goes up to 8x, and on the Pro, it goes up to 30x. I don't digitally zoom very often since it's pretty much the same as just taking the photo at 1x and cropping it as much as I wanted to. But this has been nice to have, and it's really cool that Google can just do this with software. And the new night sight's also pretty impressive. They're using a new neural network that runs a lot more efficiently on the G2. So it combines all of these frames and runs them through a denoising algorithm faster than it did before. Overall, Pixel 7 is solid. All these like little upgrades that they've done have really helped to just improve the day-to-day experience. And you know, it's only the second version of it, but Google's really starting to show the advantages of integrating their hardware, like their chips, with their own software on stock Android. And you know, the Pixel Fold's also gonna be running the G2 chip, so it'll be interesting to see how the experience changes when there's two screens. But thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos about tech, cameras, and making. Here's a video about the Steam Deck, and here's a video that YouTube thinks you're gonna like the best.